Okay, so we're live on Facebook streaming, back by popular demand. My name is Joe Walsh from the Rainbow Project, and I have with me today Stuart Alcorn. And Stuart is from the Department of Communities and Make That Call information. And we're going to be talking about benefits, accessing benefits. And Stuart has a short presentation to go through with all of the information. I'm going to share that right now with you. So welcome, Stuart. Thank you for joining us and getting this information out there. It's really helpful for people to be able to access these benefits and know how to do that. So we're just going to share the wee presentation here and we can get started.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is a presentation on benefits support services with Stuart, and when you're ready, Stuart, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Just to introduce myself, my name is Stuart Alcorn. I'm one of the community outreach officers in the Department for Communities, and I work for the Make the Call team. I've been on here last week as well, and thank you very much for giving the opportunity to come back on again and just have a little chat about who we are, what we do, and how we may be able to help anybody or anybody's families who are watching this today. If you could just go to the next slide there, please, Joe. So just to give you a quick bit of information about Make the Call. So there are two sections to Make the Call. And Make the Call is an advice line which helps to ensure individuals and households across Northern Ireland are receiving all the benefits, supports and services to which they and their families are entitled. So we have two sections. We have the telephony team. So the telephony team is the number that you ring. It's a free phone number, 0800 232 1271. Lines are open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And whenever you phone that number, you'll get through to somebody who will carry out a free and confidential needs assessment based on your circumstances. So they will ask questions about your health, about your family circumstances, about your living arrangements, and so on. And their job will then be to identify any potential entitlement that you might have to benefits, supports, or services in your local area as well. They can also help you with sending out application forms, paper application forms for certain benefits and services. They can complete a carers allowance application over the phone for you. So that's an online system, but we do appreciate that not everybody has access to the internet or may not have the facilities to be able to complete online applications. And also they can provide information and start the application process for PIP, personal independence payment, and that's a disability benefit. Now, everybody in our telephony team is fully trained on all benefits. And also we are able to access your information just through your national insurance number. So we're actually able to see if you're already maybe receiving benefits, we're able to have a look at what you're getting and make sure that you're still getting the right amount, because we understand that people's circumstances can change. And it's important to make sure that the amount that you're getting will reflect your changes in circumstances. So for somebody who maybe has a health issue, if that's deteriorated, you might actually be able to get more than what you're currently getting. We also then have our community outreach service. So that's the section I work in. And should a customer need assistance to make a claim, a community outreach officer can carry out a home visit to provide face-to-face support and complete application forms. Now, at the minute, things are a little bit different. Because of COVID-19, the numbers are still quite high. Our outreach officers are all working from home at present. Now, even though we're working from home, we still can actually help people with completing these forms. And we're doing that at the minute just over the phone. So we can actually ring a customer and go through and have a chat with them just on the phone, ask them a lot of questions and help them or actually fill out the form in most cases on their behalf. Most of these forms have now been made available online, where we can fill in that form and submit that form on the customer's behalf. So we do understand that some of these forms can be quite daunting, especially for people who have maybe never been near the benefit system before. So our aim is to basically make that as stress-free as possible and help people access those benefits, because we understand it can be quite complex. Next slide there, please. Okay, so what we can provide advice on. So this is a list of benefits that we can provide advice on. And tonight I'm actually going to be focusing a little bit more on the benefits that are there for people who are of pension age. Last week I focused a little bit more on benefits available for those of working age. So that's anything between 16 and the day you reach your state pension age. Today we're going to look at people who are maybe already getting their state pension or they're coming up on that age. So the benefits are attendance allowance. Now that is a disability benefit for people who have already reached pension age or over. Disability living allowance, people who are at pension age or over may actually already be on disability living allowance if they've been on it for a little while. And also that's a benefit that can be claimed for maybe children who have disabilities or long-term health conditions as well. Personal independence payment, or PIP. Now I spent quite a bit of time on that one last week. I will touch on it again today, and that's for people who are of working age and are looking to claim a disability benefit. Carers allowance for anybody who's caring for somebody who and the person they're caring for is in receipt of a disability benefit. They may be entitled to get carers allowance for looking after them. New Style, or ESA, Employment and Support Allowance. So that's based on your national insurance contributions. Universal credit. Again, we'll be looking at that today. I did go into a bit more detail last week about that. New Style Job Seekers Allowance, and again, that is based on your national insurance contributions over the past couple of years. State pension, and then state pension credit. Next slide there, please. So those were the benefits that we can provide advice on. We can also provide advice on some services that are available to everybody. Help with healthcare costs and hospital travel costs. So if you are on a means tested benefit, you are actually, or you could actually be eligible to get help with your healthcare costs. So that would be things like your dental treatment, the cost of glasses, sight tests, etc., and also the cost of traveling to and from hospital appointments. There is a form there that you can fill in, or we can fill in on your behalf as well through the outreach team that can be sent off, that we'd be able to get you help with those costs. The Affordable Warmth Scheme, so that is run through the councils, and that's really for people who, again, are maybe living in a house and maybe the insulation isn't up to scratch. It is a means tested service, so again, we can provide a bit of advice on how to access the Affordable Warmth Scheme to make sure that your home is efficient and as warm as possible. The Boiler Replacement Scheme, so that is for sort of older, more inefficient boilers. There are grants available to people to get those boilers replaced with something a little bit more efficient with a new boiler, and we can provide advice on that. The Blue Badge Scheme is one we get an awful lot of questions about, and we can again provide advice on filling out the forms for the Blue Badge Scheme. It can be quite a lengthy form sometimes for people to fill in, and advise them how to go about accessing that scheme. That's part of the Department for Infrastructure. Free or concessionary transport, so that would be the pass which can either get you free or half price transport. I think it is on TransLink. And free school meals, uniform grants, and Healthy Start vouchers. So obviously that's quite a big one at the minute with all the kids going back to school. Next there, please. Okay, so the first benefit we're going to touch on today is attendance allowance. Now, attendance allowance is for people who are state pension age or over, and they need help with their personal care because they either have a physical or mental disability. Okay. Attendance allowance is not means tested. So you'll hear an awful lot of people say, oh, I wouldn't be entitled to anything because I have a little bit of money in the bank, or maybe they have a pension or a bit of income. That's not the case for attendance allowance. As I would always say to my customers, you could win the lottery tomorrow and still be able to get your attendance allowance. How much attendance allowance that you would get really depends on the care that you need and not the care that you're actually getting. So I think even with the name attendance allowance, people think that you need to have carers coming in 3-4 times a day, or a family member or a friend living with you to help you throughout the day. That's not the case. It really is based on the care that you need. And they'll ask questions about getting in and out of bed, getting yourself washed, getting yourself dressed, moving about both inside the home and outside the home as well, in any indoor space. About your treatment and your medication and so on. And they ask you all these questions. And again, as the outreach officers, we fill these forms in day out. We can fill these forms out online on your behalf and send those off. And that benefit can be claimed if you need help either during the day, during the night or both for at least 6 months. So it would be quite a common benefit. Does seem to be a little bit of confusion sometimes, and I do appreciate that some of the people who are applying for attendance allowance are possibly people who are in, they're at pension age. They've maybe gone their whole life, they've worked their whole life, they've never been anywhere near the benefit system, and this could be the first benefit that they're having to claim at 70, 80, 90 years old. So we do understand it can be a bit of a minefield, and that's where we really, come in to try and help people for applying for attendance allowance. So that's the first benefit. Next slide there, please. Okay, the next benefit is disability living allowance. So disability living allowance is for people who need help with getting around or personal care, or both. And to qualify, they need to have had needed help for at least the last 3 months and expect that to last for a further 6 months. Now, for anybody making a new application for disability living allowance, or DLA as it's more commonly sort of known as, it's only open now for people who are aged under 16 for new applications. There will be some people out there who are state pension age or over who are receiving DLA, and they will continue to receive DLA. And there's the two components to DLA. So there's the mobility component. Now, the mobility component, if you are over state pension age, whatever your mobility component is now is how it will remain. Unfortunately, after state pension age, you're not able to review the mobility component of DLA. But there is the care component, the help with the personal care. And even if you are over state pension age, that's one that actually we can take a look at and see what rate you're getting. Ask you some questions about what help you need during the day, during the night. And in some circumstances, we can do a review with your disability living allowance to see whether maybe you're entitled to a little bit more. So, as I said, for new applicants, that is only for people who are aged under 16. Whenever they reach 16, they would then move on to personal independence payment, which I'll touch on slightly later. But for many people out there who are still in receipt of DLA, who are over pension age, it's definitely worth giving us a call, and we'll have a look at what rate you're getting and make sure that that rate is what you should be on. Next slide there, please. Yep, so personal independence payment. PIP was introduced back in 20th of June 2016. So it used to be DLA was in place, from birth up until pension age. PIP came in to sort of change that slightly for people who are of working age. So that's anybody aged between 16 and state pension age. A bit like DLA, it does have two components: the daily living component and the mobility component. And to qualify for PIP, you need to have had your illness or disability for at least 3 months and expect to have it for a further 9 months. Now, we can help people apply for PIP. So we can actually register your claim with PIP over the phone, and our telephony team can do that. And then the second part of applying for PIP is actually a large 40-page form. And again, the outreach officers are able to assist people with filling out that 40-page form. Again, there's an online version there now that we can do, where we can fill that form in on your behalf and submit it directly to PIP. After that form goes in, then you may be assessed by a healthcare professional. And again, the same as ourselves at the minute, that is all being done over the phone, just because of the current COVID scenario. After that assessment has been made, then you would get your award letter, to let you know if you've been successful in your award and how much then you'd be due to get. Next slide there, please.
Stuart, just a wee question on PIP. On the DLA, people used to be able to get access to a car with the mobility component. Is that the same on this benefit?
Yeah, it is the same on PIP. So if you get the enhanced rate of mobility, you can access the Motability scheme. And whenever you're actually registering your claim, if you were to ring through to make the call and register your claim to PIP, we'll actually ask you if that's something that you'd be interested in, and we can send out further information on that. So what really happens there is that mobility component, that's £62.55 per week. You can surrender some or all of that in order to access a vehicle. Some of the vehicles you do have to pay a deposit in order to get, although some of them you can get with no deposit. And with Motability, if you do get a Motability vehicle, all you have to do is add fuel to it. Your tax, your insurance, your service, and your tires, everything is covered by the Motability scheme. So yeah, that's something again that we can provide a bit more information on if anybody's interested.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, so carers allowance then. So carers allowance is an allowance for those who are caring for somebody who's getting PIP, the daily living component, part of that. Disability living allowance, the middle or high rate for personal care. Attendance allowance, either rate, whether it be the lower or the higher rate, or armed forces independence payment. So the requirements for that are the carer must be aged 16 or over and earning less than £128 per week. They also must be caring for somebody for at least 35 hours per week, whether that be a friend, family member, a son, a daughter, a mum and dad, partner, whatever. The weekly rate for carers allowance is £67.60, but if you're already getting certain benefits or a state pension, that can change slightly. So it would be paid as part of a premium, for example, on state pension credit. How much savings you have in the bank, that doesn't impact how much you will get. It really is just your income has to be under £128 per week to qualify for carers allowance. Now, with carers allowance as well, if you're of working age and you're receiving the carers allowance, that also covers your national insurance contributions, class 1 national insurance contributions, which will impact then your pension later on in life as well. So if you're getting carers allowance, or if you qualify for carers allowance, you may get extra money on your means tested benefits you're already on, such as income support, ESA, job seekers allowance, universal credit, housing benefit, and rate relief. That is one again that we can apply, help people apply for. You can apply for it online. If you're not happy applying for it online, you can give us a ring and we'll complete an application over the phone on your behalf. So next slide there, please. Yep, so universal credit. So I mentioned universal credit in quite a bit of detail last week there. Universal credit, the main aim of that is to make sure you're better off in work than you are on benefits. And it'll give you the help that you need to prepare for work, start work, or earn more money. And there's no limit to the number of hours that you can work in a week. And also your benefit will not suddenly be removed if you start work. So basically, the more you work and the more you earn, the less universal credit that you will get. It's to basically get people into work and make sure that they're better off, in work. It's an online benefit. You apply for it online, you manage your benefit online. You can access that online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's a journal there where you can actually communicate with your case manager, your work coach. It's brilliant for people who are maybe looking to take temporary or seasonal work, again, because they can keep that claim active in the background. It doesn't just shut down the second that you find work, and it really is to help people get back into work. Next slide there, please. Yep, so for universal credit, to get that, you must be aged 18 or over and under state pension age. You can't claim universal credit if you're in full-time education or training. If you have savings over £16,000, you wouldn't be entitled to universal credit. And your universal credit would be a little bit less if you have savings over £6,000, or if you earn enough money to cover your basic living costs. Now, another point just to put on that as well is that universal credit, it does look at your household income. So if you are living with a husband, wife, partner, and they are maybe working full time, or they have a bit of an income coming in, universal credit would be looking to know the details of that as well, as it does take into account your household income. Now, if you might find that means that you're not able to claim universal credit, although if you have been working or maybe claiming the likes of carers allowance and your national insurance contributions have been kept up to date for the past couple of years, you might be entitled to claim New Style Job Seekers Allowance or New Style Employment Support Allowance, either alongside or instead of universal credit. And that's going to be based on your national insurance contributions over the past couple of years. Next slide there, please. Yeah, so those are the rates there for universal credit. So if you're single and aged under 25, The standard rate is £342.72 per month. If you're single, aged 25 or over, it's £409.89 per month. If you're a couple, both aged under 25, it's £488.59 per month. And if you're a couple where either is age 25 or over, it's £594.04 per month. Now, those are basic figures. Universal credit does take an awful lot into consideration. It'll look at how many children you have living in your house. It looks at, what your housing costs are, if you're renting. If you're on universal credit, you can get help with your rates as well. It'll also look at any health conditions or disabilities that you may have whenever you're claiming universal credit too. So there is it's a very, very difficult one to try and sort of explain freely. We could sit here and talk for hours about universal credit. There is a very, very useful calculator, and it's called www.entitled to, so just the word entitled and nto.co.uk. And if you go on there and pop on your details, that'll give you a good idea as to whether you're going to be eligible for universal credit and how much you may get. And the only other thing I will always mention for universal credit is if anybody's in receipt of tax credits and they apply for universal credit, then their tax credits will stop and they would get a payment as part of their universal credit. But if they do come off universal credit, they wouldn't be able to go back onto tax credits again. So that's always something to keep in mind before applying, if that would be applicable to yourself. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's new style ESA, and this is for people who are ill or disabled and are unable to work. So during the first 13 weeks of the claim, that's known as the assessment phase, you get a base rate of ESA. And during that phase, a decision is made as to whether you'll continue to qualify for the allowance. So they would ask you to complete a capability for work questionnaire. And again, that's something that we can help with here at Make the Call. And then they'll make a decision as to whether you're going to remain on ESA, and they'll look at your, how fit you are for work. The best way to claim that is through the NI Direct website. You'll probably hear me go on about NI Direct quite a bit during this presentation, but that is your gateway to accessing a lot of these benefits: universal credit, ESA, carers allowance, state pension credit, and so on. Or if you don't want to do it online, you can contact the ESA Centre on 0800 085 6318, and they can take your claim over the phone. Next slide there, please. Okay, so then we're on to new style job seekers allowance. So this one will look at your national insurance contributions over the past couple of years. So in order to get job seekers allowance, first of all, you must be capable for work and you must be available for and actively seeking work. You must be resident in the UK, and you'll be entitled to this if you paid your Class 1 national insurance contributions in the past 2 tax years. And you can claim that for up to 182 days, so that's 6 months. After that, then your contributions would be exhausted, and you'd maybe have to look at your options and maybe going on to universal credit, if applicable. But for that one, that really is for people who are able to work and who are actively seeking work. Next slide there, please. Okay, so state pension. So state pension is a regular payment that anyone can claim whenever they get to state pension age. Now, state pension age has been changing over the last number of years. There's actually a calculator that you can use, again, on NI Direct. There's a little link to it there where you can type in your date of birth and it will tell you at what age and what date you can claim your state pension. So your state pension, the amount that you actually get in your state pension will depend on how many qualifying years of national insurance you've built up. So what you'll find is maybe somebody who's worked full-time their whole lives, they'll actually get a bit more in their state pension than, say, maybe somebody who's worked a couple of years or maybe hasn't worked for whatever reason. We also have noticed now that I think years ago, particularly with ladies, they were nearly advised to pay less national insurance, and you had an option of opting out of the higher national insurance contributions. And that probably sounded all well and good at the time because they were getting a little bit more money in their paycheck. But it's now meant that their state pensions are actually quite a bit lower. So in order to get a decent state pension, then people need to be making sure that they're paying their national insurance contributions. So if you're working, if you're an employee, generally your employer will be paying your Class 1 national insurance contributions. If you're self-employed, generally self-employed people will pay Class 2 national insurance contributions. But say, for example, somebody who's on Carers Allowance, then they would get their full Class 1 national insurance paid. And you'll hear people talking about keeping their stamp up to date, and that's what that is. So state pension, the amount will be set. It's a set amount, and you'll be notified before you reach state pension age that you're invited to apply for that. And again, that's something if you have difficulty with, we can help you through the application process for your state pension. So next slide there, please. Okay, so then we move on to state pension credit. So this is it's a means tested benefit that tops up your income at a minimum level set by the government. So as I sort of mentioned earlier on there, some people may actually have quite a low state pension. And if that's their only income, maybe they don't have a work pension or any private pensions, then state pension credit will actually step in and top up their income to make sure that they have enough to live on, and that is an amount that's set by the government. Also, for people who have certain types of income and savings as well, might get a little bit extra. And if you're entitled to pension credit, you may also be entitled to have your claim backdated for at least 3 months, as long as your circumstances haven't changed much. There is on nidirect.gov.uk a link to a calculator there, and that will look at quite a lot. So it'll ask you about yourself, your age, whether you live alone or whether you live with a partner or who you live with. It'll ask about what savings you have, whether you have maybe any money in stocks and shares. It asks about maybe if you own any other land or property apart from the home that you live in. And it does take quite a bit into consideration, and it will be able to tell you whether or not you're going to be entitled to pension credit. Next slide there, please. Yeah, so there's the 2 parts then to pension credit. So there's guaranteed credit, and that's for people who have reached the minimum state pension age. And as I said, it does take into account other income and savings whenever working out your entitlement. Now, it says here you may be able to get guaranteed credit if the money that you have coming in is less than £177.10 per week for a single person, or £270.30 per week for a couple. That's actually subject to change as well a little bit. So that is the basic rate. But what you'll find is if there's, say for example, 2 people, a couple of over pension age living together, and one of them maybe receives a disability benefit, ELA or attendance allowance, the other one can actually claim a premium for caring for that person, a carer's premium. Or if there's maybe a couple who are living together and both of them are disabled, then they can get a severe disability premium and also 2 carers premiums for looking after each other. So that amount can actually go up quite considerably. Likewise, if there is somebody living alone of pension age and they're receiving a disability benefit and nobody is claiming the carers allowance for looking after them, they can actually also claim a severe disability premium instead of that, which again would really significantly increase the minimum amount that the government sets that they need to live on per week. So those figures, yes, they're the basic figures, but there are other things to take into consideration. So I'd urge anybody who's thinking, they might be entitled to pension credit to give us a ring, or, if they want to, they can go onto the NI Direct website and do the calculation as well, or we'll be able to do that for them. So there's also savings credit. Now, savings credit is for people who have reached state pension age by the 6th of April 2016. And they may get a little bit extra for certain savings that they may have as well. With pension credit, you may get both parts or either part on its own, depending on your circumstances. And receiving either part of pension credit entitles those aged 75 or over to a free TV license. That used to be automatic, and then that changed now, so you do actually have to apply for that, and you have to be able to receive a state pension credit to get that. State pension credit is means tested. I've mentioned that earlier. And also it does take into account the household income. So if you are living with a partner, husband, wife, etc., then they will look at at both your incomes as well. And they also look at, as I said, any sort of private pensions that somebody may have coming into, but it's certainly one worth looking into. Next slide there, please. Okay, so we'll then move on to housing benefit and rate relief. So if you do get a means tested benefit, so say for example, even somebody on state pension credit, then they may qualify for help with their rent and rates. So also people who are aged 70 and over who live alone automatically qualify for a 20% discount on their rates regardless of their income and savings, where people who are aged 70 or over may also qualify for the discount if they have someone living with them with certain illnesses. So for example, dementia, Alzheimer's, brain injury does mean that they'd be able to get 20% off their rates. And again, that's something that we can send out the paperwork for, which then gets sent to Land and Property Services. So we can help people with filling in the application for that discount. People who have a disability who have made adaptations to their home can also apply for a rate relief reduction of 25%. And people of working age who do not already receive housing benefit towards their renter rates would now have to go to universal credit if they want to claim for assistance with that. And the rate relief actually is to be claimed online separately after universal credit has been awarded. But again, we can advise people on how to go about that. Next slide there, please. Okay, so partnerships then. So at Make the Call, we work on what we call the wraparound approach, and that's about dealing with a household in a holistic way. So it means that we're not just giving out phone numbers and signposting, but we're actually connecting customers directly with our trusted partners across government, voluntary and statutory sector to enhance the provision of supports and services to help improve customers' lives for the better. So Make the Call, it's not only about benefits, but also the service identifies organisations whose supports and services could contribute to better outcomes for customers. For example, the ability to connect with people with organisations that provide better social engagement for those who feel isolated, lonely, or socially excluded. So, some of the examples there, for example, would be the knit and natter that would happen in the local libraries, or Men's Shed, for example, maybe if, again, a great way of connecting people to try and sort of help with, isolation and social exclusion. Next slide there, please. Okay, so some of the these are just some of the partners that we have. Social supermarkets. Social supermarkets do have some funding from the Department for Communities, and they developed a 6-month programme where members have access to reduced food costs whilst engaging in tailored support and wraparound services that enable and empower members to bring positive changes to their lives, finances, food habits, and step towards future stability. So the programme has been designed to help people who are either experiencing food poverty or at risk of food poverty because they have low disposable income. And the other vital element of the programme is that members must want to make positive changes in their lives for future stability. So there's 5 pilot areas: Apex Housing, Footprint Women's Centre in Poleglass, Strabane Community Project, Vineyard Compassion in Coleraine, and Lisburn City Church Community Trust there in Lisburn. So they're the 5 that are there at the minute. But whenever people join up to these social supermarkets, they will be asked questions, and they'll actually come through to Make the Call as well to get a benefit check to make sure they're getting all the correct benefit entitlements. But the social supermarkets will help them when it comes to giving them advice on maybe how to budget, cooking skills and essential skills as well, and making sure that people are able to make the most out of what they do have as well, to try and sort of empower them and to make positive changes, to ensure their stability for the future as well. Next slide there, please. Yeah, we also work with the Now Group. So the Now Group have a JAM card. So JAM stands for Just a Minute, and it's a card that people can use as a way of basically telling others in a discreet way that they need just a minute to help them. So those with a communication barrier are often reluctant or unable to tell others about their condition. So the JAM card allows this to happen in a simple, effective, and non-verbal manner. So people can get JAM cards if they have a learning disability or difficulty, have autism, or have a condition which sort of impacts their day-to-day life. So you'll see little stickers in shop windows and at the banks and buses and trains and everything else. And it does mean if somebody maybe needs a little bit more time to count out their change, or to find their card and remember their PIN number, or to pack their shopping bag if they're buying groceries, that they can just hold up this little card and the person at the other side of the screen will know to be patient with that person and just give them a little bit more time. Next slide there, please. Yep, so the Jam card was originally developed by the Now Group for people with learning disabilities and autism. And Dementia NI have now also adapted it for people who are living with dementia and memory problems. So for Dementia NI, they're an organisation who are led by people with dementia, and they're developing empowerment groups across Northern Ireland with the support from staff and volunteers. And these groups help members get actively involved in the local community, sharing their experiences and offering support to each other. So they get members out and about, helping to alleviate potential isolation, boredom, improving mood and overall well-being. So if you know anybody who has dementia or is living with a family member with dementia, then Dementia NI are fantastic, and they're brilliant support to people who are living with dementia and their families as well. Next slide there, please. Housing rights. So we also have linked up with housing rights. So with housing rights, they can give advice on homelessness, paying for accommodation, repossession and eviction, private rent, mortgage or rent arrears, and repairs or improvements. They also have landlord advice as well, so it is for tenants and landlords. So if anybody has any queries about their housing rights, whether it be a tenant or a landlord, or even somebody who's mortgaged, then please get in contact, and we'll be able to give you some more information there about housing rights as well. Next slide, please. Yep, rural support. So the Rural Support Helpline provides a listening and signposting service for farmers and rural families across Northern Ireland. They provide dedicated support to give guidance during times of need and help tackle rural stress. They also have farm business support, which helps rural families and dwellers tackle farm business issues such as finance, debt, or paperwork. And they're another organisation there that we've connected up with and we'd be able to provide details on. Next, please. Yeah, and then Antrim and Newton Abbey Council as well. So with Antrim and Newton Abbey Council, we've joined up with them in order that our outreach officers working within that area can issue people with radar keys. Now, radar keys are keys that are issued to people who need access to disabled toilets and disabled facilities, and these keys are universal and they can work across all of the UK. So toilets fitted with radar locks can now be found in shopping centres, pubs, cafes, department stores, bus and train stations, and many other locations in most parts of the country. So that provides access to the wheelchair accessible swings as well within the Antrim and Newton Abbey Play Park. So these keys were brought in basically because public toilets that were designed for disabled people were having to be locked to prevent damage and misuse. So if anybody does require one of those and they live within the Antrim and Newton Abbey Council area, we were able to get them a radar key and help them access those facilities. Next slide, please. Okay, so Carers NI. So Carers NI are a regional organisation and they're working as part of Carers UK. They provide information and advice through email and telephone. They provide carer support. They work with campaigning and lobbying for carers' rights, and they provide tailored training and to professionals and frontline workers on a range of carers issues, carers assessments, benefits, etc. So if anybody is a carer and they're looking a little bit more information, then we can get them in touch with Carers NI. Next, please. Okay, so local supports and services. So as I mentioned, we do have a team of outreach officers in each area of Northern Ireland. So each community outreach officer will have their own sort of contacts and local supports and services. So depending on where you live, you know, if you do want a wee bit more information, say for example, on the rural transport scheme, then if you bring up and ask to speak to one of the outreach officers or get a referral made to an outreach officer, they'll be able to tell you what services are out there in your local community that may be of benefit to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so for getting in contact with us then, the first port of call will be calling on 0800 232 1271. It is a free and confidential phone line. and we are open Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can text the word advice to 67300, and one of our telephony team will get back in contact with you on the number that you've texted us off. You can get some more information about us on nidirect.gov.uk/make-the-call. Or if you want to email us directly with your query, you can email us at makethecall@dfcni.gov.uk. We also do have a specific inbox for transgender customers, and we do understand that there can be some difficulties with people being misgendered. And for anybody who is transgender who does wish to make an inquiry, they can email knockbreda.makethecall.scr@dfcni.gov.uk, and we will get back to you. One of our advisors will get back to you. I hope that you found some of the information on here today useful. Please feel free to share this amongst family and friends, or anybody that you may feel would find this information useful. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging about for the next 5-10 minutes as well, if anybody does want to come through. But I do appreciate, with it being a public realm, that people may not want to be giving their details or asking too many questions publicly. But please do get in contact. And as I said, the best way to get in contact with us is 0800 232 1271. So that's me. Thank you very much for giving me the time today to talk about Make the Call and what services we can provide. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
Amazing, Stuart. Thank you so much. That was very informative. I'm just going to stop the screen share here. And if you're still with us, well done. Feel free to send through any of your questions. And if you're watching this on the recording, you can call the number or contact us on any of the email addresses there that Stuart has read out. Or if you feel more comfortable contacting the Rainbow Project first, we can forward questions on. So my email address is joe@rainbow-project.org. Okay, so we are just going to finish live stream, and we'll check for any questions there.